It's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio CEO CKN News, that is Chief Chris Kehinde Nwandu, and Public Affairs Analyst and Chartered Accountant Sesan Okunade. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank God it's Friday. Congratulations. He's no longer a baby lawyer.
You're now a chief in addition to it.
He's now a chief.
Thank you very much.
All right, we head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the Dailytrust. Fraud. Kalu joins Dariye Nyame in prison. Same fate awaits other looters' presidency. And to the front page of the Blueprint, 17.6 billion naira fraud. Tears as Kalu joins Dariye Nyame in jail. Begs warders, don't handcuff me, says 2023, here we come. Serap others hail judgment, mixed reactions in Abia. Judgment can't stand, legal team. We'll be looking at that story shortly. And to the front page of the Daily Times, federal government to spend 10.594 trillion naira in 2020. National Assembly beats a 5-year record on budget passage. How 264 billion naira was added. And finally, on the front page of the NewsDirect, budget approval, Senate adds 264 billion naira to 2020 budget. All right, gentlemen, we'll be looking at the story on the front page of the Blueprint, talking about our former governor, Orji Uzor Kalu, being sentenced to 12 years in jail. And some have said, I want to get your reaction, first of all, to this. After 12 years, I'll start with you, Chris. We'll get this judgment. Would you say that this is justice being done?
Well, it's justice being done, although delayed, but it's still justice. It's better late than never.
Okay.
It's a good one. You can always point, it's a pointer to those in government or those within the public view to understand that whatever you do one day, you account for it.
Absolutely.
Yes. It has taken 12 years to come. But that also speaks volume about our judicial system. Because if this issue has been disposed of as it ought to have been, and we've gotten judgments in the past, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago or 3, the Chief Orji Kalu would have been in the Senate.
Perhaps this is why some are calling for a separate court to try corruption.
Yes, I agree to that. But even at that, you have to understand the legal implication and the way lawyers go about their job. The prosecution can as well delay through tactics the final outcome of any trial. But as I said, it is a very good one that we'll be able to get it. But that is not yet to hurry because he will still going on appeal.
All right, Sesan, how much of a boost is this to our fight against corruption?
Yeah, well, like CKN said, justice delay is not justice denied. So at this point in time, at least we want to give kudos to the EFCC. At least this is now the number 3 count, the number 3 governor, being sent to jail. Whether he's going to appeal or not, as we speak today,
he's in jail.
He's in jail. So he set signal that the essence of leadership, it's to serve and not to just go and misappropriate our funds. The other aspect that we have is that economically, if the judiciary aspect can improve it, we talk about time value of money. Yes. For 12 years, if that case was settled within 1-2 years, you can imagine what the 7-point-something billion would have translated to in the development of Abia State, where
the money is being returned to the federal government and not the state, which is another issue of controversy amongst Nigerians.
Yeah, that one is a topic for another day. But one, when you look at economic view of time value of money, 7-point-something million of 10 years ago and today, you cannot put the two.
Absolutely.
So even if you have to put the money, just ordinary in fixed deposit for a while, not even talking of developmental things, you know what that would have yielded, what development that would have created. Whether it's to the federal, whether it's to the state, you're returning it to the government, and it's meant for development of the people. But you've delayed it too long. And by now, that 7 point something billion might not be more than maybe 1 point something.
All right, there's an issue that is being raised, Chris, and I want you to actually shed more light on it, because some have said that this really isn't justice enough, because he might be getting his pensions and benefits as a governor.
Ex-governor.
Ex-governor, yes.
Yes.
Ex-governor.
You know, there was a recent court judgment a few days ago where a federal high court judge gave a judgment that all ex-governors who are presently in service, service, I just use that service, should refund whatever they've been paid, and rest of them, and also they are not entitled to any pension. So
yes, but so that is also being challenged, that this is in the laws,
yes,
state laws.
The various state laws. That is that's a controversy there. Yeah. But even at that, you also have to know that even as he is presently in detention, he'll be getting his allowances for now. He's still a senator until the final judgment where he'll be removed and another
declared vacant.
So you don't forget what happened when Dariye was, you understand? It happened when Dariye was, because for a long time, I know that Dariye was receiving his monetary and this thing. So, but it's also it's a test of our judicial system. As we continue
and
going,
our laws,
as we continue moving, we continue to improve. Don't forget that we had several challenges in the past. Look at what happened after the death of former President Yar'Adua. And for some days and weeks, we are finding it difficult to be able to, for Goodluck Jonathan, when he was sick, let's not even say when he died, when he was sick, for Goodluck Jonathan to be able to take over the reign of government. Yeah. The National Assembly under David Mark, they had to come out with the doctrine of necessity, which now made it possible for Goodluck Jonathan to take over government. So it is a good one. It's a test of our judicial system. And to me, I believe it is a pointer that we are getting somewhere, because the most...
No matter how slow?
My dear, the fact that at the end of it all, you'll be held responsible for whatever action. Some people have been... When they were doing this, don't forget, let's even go back to Kalu. Most of the time when he was doing this in 1999, there was no EFCC. Most of them just thought they would get away with it. EFCC came later on in the later part of when President Olusegun Obasanjo came up with that anti-graft government. And before that, we had nothing like that. So that is why it's a gradual process. We are getting there. But what it has got, what is showing now is that, irrespective, don't forget also that some of these people jump ship. They jump ship because believing that when they move, there'll be a cover. That when they move to the other part, he was in PDP for a long time. Yes. He now quickly joined ship and went to APC, thinking that way, and that is why we have to commend the president. And
so this is no longer a case of witch hunt now.
That has been silenced. If it's not, it's just a matter of you are being convicted for what you have done, and this will send signal to our electoral process, where if you do anything, there are... See, things are getting exposed day by day. Technology is unfolding so many things. We are like the single treasury account that we are operating. So many things are being computerized where you cannot even hide anywhere. So if you do anything, so that will put a check on our system to let you know that whatever you do, you might have it covered today, but in the nearest future, it will definitely be exposed. Whether you take it or leave it, you've been adjourned to be a criminal by taking part of the money, and you'll be convicted that you are once someone who has been to jail.
But the issue is, it seems Nigerians easily forget, because when he comes out of prison, that is if he stays, and he comes out for a political post, people would naturally tend to leave.
Because our mindset is all about, because of the poverty level that we have, our mindset is all about money. And that's why most people forget so soon activities that has happened. Somebody just come and he throws party, gives cup of rice. So until we start reorientating the minds of the people, just like part of what you had this morning in your session, reorientating the mind of the people and make them self-dependent, so that when you come with whatever you have, I'm going to have my mind, and you keep those things at bay. With that, we're going to put checks on those leaders that feels that they can just buy our conscience with money, forgetting the past. This will continually give rise to it. So we'll pray the lawyers.
A quick correction there. By the Nigerian Constitution, if he's convicted and he goes through this process, at the end of it all, is finally convicted, he cannot vie for any office.
For any
So
office.
yes, I need to correct that. Okay. Yes, he cannot go through the books. He cannot. So
he cannot?
No, he cannot. If he has been in fact, the law states that if you are once
How
convicted,
effective have these laws been?
well, if it has not been, if people should challenge it, but that is the stand of the law. That is what the law states. So if, yes, as an ex-convict, you cannot vie for any position in Nigeria, at least for a certain period of time. He cannot. So
For a period of
for
time,
a
and after
period
that
of
period
time,
is
after that period
over,
you come back.
you can.
it's debatable.
So what
Yes,
are we
yes,
saying?
he
It's the
cannot.
same thing we are saying.
So he cannot. He cannot for now. He cannot.
Well,
By the stand of the
let's
law.
wait.
Let-
But we
let's-
just
Yeah.
want to improve.
But this will still drag. If there's going to be a stay of execution,
Yeah.
which if goes on appeal and a stay
Yeah.
of execution, there's a possibility that it might not even, it will still come out and until the case is determined. But let's not try
Well,
to.
for
but
how
as
long would that take?
Well, if an court of appeal, which is likely is going to the lawyer
going
said
to
it,
appeal.
yeah, he's going
Yeah,
to
said
appeal.
it's
The
going
lawyer
yes,
said that they're going to appeal.
if the court of appeal says
Upholds
that,
the-
yes,
this.
have a stay of execution of that judgment,
Yes.
there's the possibility that he will still he will be out of prison until determination of that case, which also could take up to
Another
go to the
12
Supreme Court.
years.
We could also get to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
So that is the point of the law. So, but
I
for
think
now,
the judiciary system
for
just
now,
needs to be
for
worked
now, the man is at Ikoyi prison. So let's go out.
All right, so Chief CK and Sesan Okunade, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very
for your
much.
time
Thank you
with
for
the
having us.
newspaper.
I have with me in the studio the CEO of CK News, Kehinde Nwandu, and Public Affairs Analyst and Chartered Accountant, Sesan Okunade. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for
Okay, so we're in the broadcast industry, I can't call you High Chief. It's unethical at this point, so let's leave it at that now. All right, so let's look at the stories making the headlines. We'll start with the Daily Trust. It says here, fraud. Kalu joins Dariye Nyame in prison. Same fate awaits other looters, says presidency. Now, that story has been all around the newspapers this morning. Of course, the Blueprint is also saying the same thing. 17.6 billion naira fraud. Tears as Kalu joins Dariye Nyame in jail. Begs warders, don't handcuff me. Says 2023, here we come. Serap others hail judgment. Mixed reactions in Abia. Judgment can't stand, says legal team. A Daily Times rather says federal government to spend 10.594 trillion naira in 2020. National Assembly beats 5-year record on budget passage. How 264 billion naira was added. The NewsDirect says budget approval, Senate adds 264 billion naira to 2020 budget. The Vanguard is saying here, Senate adds 264 billion naira, passes 10.594 trillion naira budget for 2020. The Guardian says mixed reactions as courts jails Orju's Kalu for 12 years. Abia residents lament forfeiture of assets to the federal government. The Nation says Aisha Buhari, president's aides not defending government. That's in the Nation newspaper now. The Daily Sun, as the final newspaper, is saying explosion rocks Lagos. 2 dead, bridges destroyed from fuel pipeline fire. Student loses arms, others injured from explosion in Ebonyi school. So we'll stick with the story in the Vanguard newspaper. Senate adds 264 billion naira, passes 10.594 trillion naira budget in 2020. Gentlemen, 10.594 trillion naira with the additional 264 billion naira added by the Senate for the 2020 budget. Of course, this is the first time the Senate is passing a budget before the end of the year and before the new year. So it makes it the beginning of the budget cycle to start in January. Now, how do you see this story?
Well, first and foremost, as rightly said, we need to commend the Senate of the Federal Republic, and also we are also looking at the House of Representatives for us to be able to get this right, because this is what we've been advocating for a long time. In those days when we are young, we all, even while in primary school, we know that budget cycle starts when the president is reading his speech. So everything starts from 1st of January and the rest of that. I didn't know where we got it wrong. That is by the way. So they got it right there. Then secondly is also implementation is going to be a problem.
True.
That is where we need to look at, because most often than not, when we put all these when the budget is passed, you come to realize at the end of it, when they're having an evaluation, you realize that the budget secure implementation might not even be up to 50%. That becomes a problem. Then to the additions, it's within their power. What the president sent to the National Assembly is just a budget proposal. It's within the power of the National Assembly, both the House of Reps and Senate, to be able to look at it. And if they find areas where they think that there should be additions, subtractions, and the rest of them, then they should be able to do that. But I've not been able to see what they added. I hope it's not their constituency projects. If it's not, then for me,
it's already provided for in the budget.
That's what I'm saying. So, but of recent, we'll be hearing of what so much that was given for constituency projects that were not utilized for the.
It's about 1 trillion in about 10 years.
Yes. Yeah. So go to all the constituencies where they represent. There's nothing to show. The only thing they do in empowerment is just giving people keke napep and the rest of them.
But it's empowerment. What do you expect?
That is not my idea of empowerment.
Okay.
That is not my own idea. But they have their own reasons and why they do that. Empowerment should be something that should be lasting, something that should be able to sustain the people. Okay. You teach somebody how to fish. You don't just give him fish, because if you give him fish, he will eat and just will ask for more. But when you teach him how to fish, then he'll be able to get something.
Let's go to Sesan now. The Senate raised its own allocations by 3 billion naira and effected cuts in allocation to some MDAs. Do you see this as a loss in priority?
Yeah, let me start by giving kudos to the current NAS. This is a welcome development, because the impact of getting this passed before the beginning of the year is that most companies now know the direction to face, how to plan themselves, most especially the private sector, which I see, if properly watch over, it's going to impact on our economy. You know, the days of you starting the budget at the mid of the year when you don't even have a direction, that's gone. But go back to what you've just asked. I'm an advocate that keeps saying that every project that the NAS intended to do, of which they call constituency allowance, should be embedded in what they will give to the executive to infuse into their plans, because they are to do an oversight, and majority of the constituency allowance they claim that do happen are not things that are expected of them. They are to follow through. Take for example, we want to do this road that leads under my constituency. Infuse that into what the Ministry of Works should carry out and follow through, so that every senator can follow every minister in executing part of the things that they have done, not just relaxing and saying,
that will ensure even development everywhere.
Everywhere, because if all the senators have to put pressure on every minister for certain development, it's not that everybody wants to advocate for roads. A senator might decide to pick up communication in his area, believing that the state government will work on the road. So it should be interchangeable. If Ministry of Work is doing something for you this particular time, communication can be there, health can be there. So you have a balancing thing. If you do it this time, then the other one. Like he said in his presentation, my problem is always implementation. By the end of 2020, by the time we'll be assessing this 2019 budget, you discover that we've not done up to 40–50%, and there will always be reason. You discover that proper monitoring are not there on some of the things that they have promised to execute on the part of the executive. So I expect NAS to follow through some of these things to make sure that, if not, let's leave the aspect of 40–50% implementation of the budget, and let's move as much as 70–80. We are talking of increasing our revenue, of which so many people are still agitating on, which lies on the approval of the increase in VAT that will affect masses. We expect a return on it to see developmental changes in the aspect of infrastructure, so that we can enjoy some certain things that we can all balance through. For me, the NAS should focus on monitoring the executive in executing beyond 50% of the budget that they've actually presented.
But is that not why the constitution, beyond the whole monitoring, there's a period where you can monitor, and at a point you get tired of monitoring because you want to execute a project in your. Is that not why the constituency project fund, rather, allocations, is there to ensure that the senator himself can drive development via these funds to his constituency.
Yeah, it is. It is, but most often than not, you come to realize that. Let me give you a clear example. Some months back, we realized that there are some senators, some of the empowerment stuff that we are giving or that they are supposed to get for their constituency, they just stocked it in their houses. Yes. Okay. Do you understand? Yes. I know there are two senators. Do you understand? Yes. I know there are two senators that at the ICPC has to step in and force the senator to open up that warehouse and give away those stuff. Yes. He was forced to give away. Some of them have already gotten that bad. But as I said, the problem we're also going to have is because look at the budget itself. You see that bulk of the budget goes into salaries.
So
how
do we stem this tide?
So there should be a turnaround.
Okay.
They should be looking at areas developmental projects that will benefit the Nigerians and not what we've been having in the past several years, recurrent, and their travel allowances, their aids, the paying of their aids, taking care of their wives, taking care of their leave allowances, Estacos and the rest of them. At the end of it all, you see that that in itself, it takes the bulk of the budget, which is not right.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for talking to us on this.